This is Retirement News Online. Welcome back. Whether you're nearing retirement or already living in it, one concern rises above all the rest. It's financial security. Anxiety about running out of money in retirement is higher today than for any previous generation. And according to a recent Morningstar study, nearly 45% of retirees risk depleting their savings during retirement. My guests are Josh Reaves from Atlanta, Georgia, and Tim McCarty in Lexington, South Carolina. They are with Swarm Financial. And Tim, I'm going to start with you. Longevity risk is what we're talking about. So the good news is that medical science has allowed us to live a lot longer than we probably thought we should. But the bad news is medical science has allowed us to live a lot longer than we thought we were going to live, and we have to now pay for all this time without a paycheck. So when you talk about longevity risk, where if you have a couple that's, say, healthy, 65, there's more than a 50% chance that one of them will get to 95. That creates some issues that we need to address. And how do you handle longevity risk?
Well, I think you laid that out very well, because longevity is, to be honest, it is the risk. And it's the one thing that so many people just, they don't plan for. We save all of our entire life. We work hard, we save, it's been programmed into us. And you have to get to a point where you realize that there's going to be a distribution at some point. And you have to look at longevity within your family, you have to look at your health. But people need to understand that there are ways that we can mitigate that risk. With proper advice and proper planning, you can make certain that you have an income that lasts, a guaranteed income that will last your entire life. And we find that a lot of folks find it very, very comforting to know that they just simply won't run out of money. Hard for them to comprehend, but it's a great thing.
You know, people, when they get into retirement, they think, you know, hey, we're going to travel a lot. They don't realize as they get older, a lot of that travel is just to the doctor's office, right? And so, you know, you got to think about, you know, the cost of medical care, which goes up and all that. But let's talk about some of the strategies that he just mentioned about how to, I guess, create something like a pension or a guaranteed income stream that doesn't run out, probably not necessarily in equity.
Right. I mean, annuities are a great way to do that. A lot of people don't, know a lot about annuities, or maybe they've heard things, and there could be a lot of misinformation about what annuities can do. But when it comes to talking about income planning for retirement, they can be an effective and great way to do that, to help provide that extra security, along with Social Security, along with a pension if that does exist, or any other kind of supplemental income, including from real estate. Maybe they have rental income. The thing is about really understanding holistically, and it is important for clients to share, all of the sources of income that they expect to have, all of the endeavors that they're working to build for their retirement. If they don't give us a complete picture, it's really hard to have that conversation and tell them, okay, are you going to meet those longevity risks that you're concerned about? Well, we need to know what everything that you're kind of involved with, right, to be able to do that.
And Tim, so would it be accurate to say that when you start talking to people about income planning and retirement, for example, a lot of them kind of think they have this idea about income, but it's really this number. Remember, it was like, what's your retirement number, which was kind of an interesting sort of advertising campaign, but they really just they're sort of hoping. They've just got this drawer full of statements, and their broker or their advisor or asset manager is just saying, we'll just keep, accumulating, and hopefully it'll all work out at the end. So they're just not really prepared, are they?
Sure. What you find a lot of times is people have started their career and they move throughout their lives. They've changed jobs, they changed positions so many times. And they've started saving with company A, they've saved again with company B, and along the way they've done really well, they have the best of intentions, but you have statements that are here and statements that are there. It's very seldom that you see a couple in their 50s where someone has come together and shown them how to take all of the assets that they actually have and combine those assets. There's no plan there. They saved and they saved, but there's really been, like you said, there's been no plan for the future. So part of what we do is to take those statements, take that information, put it together so that we can make sure that we can help make a plan for them that'll last them into their lifetime, into retirement, and so forth.
How does somebody know if they have the right advisor?
Well, I personally, I grew up in this business. My parents were in this for 50 years. And one of the things that I think I discovered in being part of this, and as myself, what I do with my clients, you have to be candid. You have to challenge them. And if you're not being challenged, if you're not being asked hard questions to think about risk, to think about planning for retirement, for the income, the taxation that you're going to have in retirement as well, then I think you need to question, am I with the right person? Because if somebody's not doing that for you and you're not open to that, you may not be in the right mindset to receive that.
If they're focusing all on returns, that's all they talk about.
Yeah,
sure.
It's probably not something that they think more about is the income side of it, right?
Sure, absolutely. And that's, people factor in so many things as they look at retirement, but the income is just not something that they look at. They have to find the right advisor. Like you were saying earlier, it's our obligation to give them an honest opinion, just like it's their obligation to give us accurate information. I mean, you can't work together if you don't trust someone, if you don't feel comfortable with them, and if you're not honest with each other.
Mm-hmm. So before we end, you're with Swarm Financial. What does Swarm mean as far as your firm? What's the message there?
Well, it's actually funny that you asked that because it's a play on words, really. I went to Georgia Tech, so Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
But also, we're based in the Southeast, and so the term swarm is really wealth accumulation and risk management, and we're based in the Southeast. So there's some thought behind that branding, right? Because to me, you can't talk about income and retirement without talking about managing risk.
Sure.
Those things go hand in hand, and if you don't, build those two together, and if that's not part of the conversation, you're missing a big piece of it, right? You're not really providing the level of service and the level of thought that needs to go into helping your clients understand how to mitigate risk, because life is full of risk. And if you're not talking about longevity risk, if you're not talking about healthcare risk, running out of money, I mean, this is
Policy risk?
Geopolitical risk. I mean, you name it, right? There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but it's our job to think about that. There's a lot of noise out there too, and we have to filter out the noise, and we have to help our clients understand and make sense of all that.
You two are a delight to talk to. I can really tell that you care about your clients. I appreciate your time. Tim McCarty, Josh Reaves, Swarm Financial. This is Retirement News Online. You can check us out at retirementnewsonline.com. Thank you for watching.